Good morning. It is 9 o'clock on July 3rd, and it is a beautiful day outside. What a wonderful day God has made. So, I wanted to just talk about testimonies a little bit here. Um, my wife and I, we just got baptized, and we had the opportunity in which to share our testimonies with our family that came. Uh, and it's a wonderful, powerful thing, a testimony. It sheds the light on the struggles you've gone through, everything that is weighing you down, but then it shows just how God has worked in your life, where He's come in and just uplifted you, made you an overcomer. He's helped you get a foot over the devil, over all of that. And just to show His wonderful mercy. And, we had conversations with some folks after the baptism and after sharing our testimonies that were mentioning how if more of us were open, if more of us were honest and upfront, not putting on a face, that it would benefit so many other people. Apologize for the noise. I live right on the highway here, but it's too beautiful to. I wanted to be out in God's creation to shoot this video instead of inside. But the world would benefit if more of us were open and honest with our vulnerabilities, everything that we face, and it would help us to realize that everybody is struggling. It really is. It's everybody puts on a face when they get out in public, and that's not it. We're so concerned with self-image. It's just kind of the way that our culture has come about. You have to live this ideal life, especially off of social media. You have to have the perfect life, or this ideal life portrayed across for all of your friends and your family to make it seem like you're doing good. And that's just not true. That's just not true. We need to express when we are not okay. We need to share with those around us who care and love for us that we are in trouble, that we need help, and we can't face this stuff alone. We want support, we want that love, but why do we hide behind the walls that we build up? And it made me kind of realize just how powerful testimonies really are, because they hit the very essence of your vulnerability and the struggles that you have faced. And if you can be honest and upfront with people when you're sharing that, and then to show just how God has worked in your life and where you're at and how He continues to work in your life and the plans that He is going to have for you and the things that He's done for you already, how He can overcome any hardship that we ever face. Testimonies are powerful. They're moving. They're inspirational. And after the baptism, that's when I realized it, that more of us need to share our testimonies. I've been going through and I've seen a few on YouTube here that they are wonderful, wonderful testimonies. They really are. God works miracles. He's so amazing. No matter what we go through, He is bigger than all of our struggles. All of them. So I want to challenge everybody out there who watches this video to think about what your testimony is. What is it that you have faced that God has provided for you to bring you out of that? The testimony is about glorifying God, to show that He is almighty, that He is all powerful, all loving. So how has He worked in your lives? Now, I want to share with you guys my testimony. I want to share, like I did for our baptism, the testimony that It's about how God has found me. Because I was lost. I was so lost, chasing everything except Jesus. Everything except Him. But He found me. He found me. And now He's within me for good. I'm so blessed. I'm so happy to have that there. So I'm going to delve right in. I got my notes over here. That's why I keep looking over here. So this is going to get very deep and very personal. And like I say, if we can be open and honest, then that's what creates the power to share something that maybe we haven't been comfortable enough to share before, to share with others there that we keep bottled up. So I'm gonna put this right out there. Some of you guys, if you know me and you're watching this video, it might shock you a little bit, but that's just how amazing God is. And I want to share this with you guys, how much He loves me, how much He's shown that to me, and how much He loves you, because He loves each and every one of us. We are unique creations within God. So to start it off, I kind of grew up in what you would call a good Christian home. I was raised by my parents to be Christian. My grandpa was a pastor, and I had a good upbringing into faith. And so through Sunday school, through my parents, my grandparents, my education even was actually based on faith. And so going to school, it was always something there that was teaching me more about God, more about Jesus, and that kind of a life of on how, well, not so much the life, but just what Jesus has done for us and who He is, kind of thing. So I was getting a lot of head knowledge of God and Jesus, but and then through that, when I was younger, I believed that I did have an actual strong, healthy relationship with Jesus. I remember things as a kid that I would just go belting out songs after hearing them at church, and just one of them in particular was "Jesus, You Are My Best Friend," and that one stuck with me till this day. It's a powerful song in that way. And so yeah, when I was young, I believed I had a good relationship. But then, as I entered into my teenage years, I started to doubt if God was real. If He was real, if He cared for me. And this head knowledge that I had of God, it wasn't cutting it anymore. I started to desire an experience. I wanted something physical. I wanted God to do something for me that would prove He existed. And so I started to challenge God when I was praying to Him. I would come out and I would call out to Him and say, God, if you're real, do this for me. If you're real, make this happen in my life. And they were selfish desires. The things that I was requesting, they were not of God. They were not in line with the path and the will that He has for me. It was my own selfish desire, and silly things, just as simple as playing a video game or making a video game happen, or I had a crush on a girl, make this happen, kind of thing, things like that. And so those were the selfish challenges that I was putting to God. And so when they weren't being met, well, of course they're not going to be, I got upset with God because He wasn't doing what I asked Him to do. And excuse me. And then when that happened, I started to drift away from God more. The space kept on building between us. And I kept putting Him on the back burner, the wayside there, and just leaving Him behind as I pursued what I wanted for myself. Because if He wasn't going to give it to me, I'm going to try to do what I want and get my own pleasure for the things that I can have right now. I didn't want to wait. I kept focusing on me. And I wasn't patient enough to wait for God and what He had planned for me in the future. And so I was impatient all the time. And I started, by drifting away from God, I started to grow an anger within inside myself because nothing was going the way that I wanted it to go for myself. I was challenging God to come and do this work in my life so that I could have it the way that I wanted it. And of course, without his power, what am I able to do to make it the way that I want it to be? And so all these things were not happening for me the way that I wanted them. And I just kept getting angrier and angrier. I started to hold resentment within myself and against myself. And so when this started to build up, I would lash out. And I would lash out around the people around my family, specifically, verbally against my parents, physically against my siblings. I have 3 siblings, and I'm the oldest. And, my parents were both away working. And so I was left to look after my siblings a lot. And one of the things that really, really pressed my buttons was when they would not listen to me. Because my parents left me in charge to look after everybody, and I'm telling you what to do, and they don't want to do it. So that just got me mad, and I would take it out on them, and I would physically make them do what I was telling them to do, or just have a fight and brawl it out with them. And through all of this, I started to hate things about myself. I started to question, I would say things like, why aren't I cooler? Well, it sounds silly now to say it at my age, but that's what I was concerned with at the time. That's what a teenager is concerned about, is their popularity, their image to others. And I say things like, why do I have so much acne? I'm ugly. I'm a freak. Nobody likes me. I'm a failure. A good for nothing. And this is when depression crept into my life. And like a serpent, it wrapped itself around me, squeezing tighter and tighter until I couldn't breathe from the emotional anguish that was unleashed on me. Loser, disgusting. I should die. No one would miss me. The world would be better off if I weren't a part of it. This darkness overtook me, and it flooded my head with these terrible things. It continued relentlessly assaulting me until I had decided finally that I'm going to take my own life. So I picked a day, I picked a time, I picked how I was going to do it. I had a plan. And 5 days to the countdown is when I made that decision. It was 5 days. And then I was going to take my life. And I waited until the last day, the day before. And I approached this girl in school. I had made good friends with her, and I confided with her this plan to end my life. I was thinking at the time that at least somebody, one person, should know what I'm going to be doing. So I pulled her aside just before school started, and I told her. And I don't remember a word that she said back to me, but I do remember so vividly the tears that had run down her face. Now, I was shocked. Those tears, they shocked me. And I couldn't believe it. that someone had actually cared enough that they were crying for me, that they cared that much for me. This whole time I had built this wall up, telling myself nobody cares for me, nobody loves me, that I was better off dead because nobody would miss me. Those tears started to break down the walls that I was building up to keep everybody out. And throughout the day, she had talked me into letting her try to show me, try being the key word. I was still convinced that some part of me just needed to end my life. But that other part of me that realized that she was caring enough to cry sparked hope in my heart. And I let her convince me that no, you hold off and let me show you that life is worth living. Now, the things that we had talked about, that she would show me, the things that we were going to go do so that she could prove that to me, they never happened. This is because she went back home 2 months after this. She went back home to Germany. She was an exchange student there for just the 1 year. Now, after she went home, we slowly stopped keeping in touch. And it's gotten to the point now where we don't talk. And it fell off pretty. Within about a year or two, there was no conversation anymore. And I don't know that I'll ever actually see her again in this life. But I do believe that God used her that day like a guardian angel to keep me from committing suicide. I was so close. You know, I didn't even say a prayer. I didn't even call out to God. I didn't talk to anybody except her the day before. And God intervenes and stops that from happening. Now, my depression wasn't gone yet. It still lingered on, and I struggled with it a lot. But I did have something to fight for now. Something to cling to. And that was that hope. That hope now within me that other people care for me like she did. That all these things that I've been telling myself for years and years, that they just weren't true. That the people really did love me and they cared for me, even though they didn't say it. Even though sometimes I could use their actions to say, yeah, they hate you. They don't care for you. They don't want you here. Those were lies. Lies from the devil. And I had hope. I had hope. So I desperately clung to that hope. And holding on to that, I was able to start fighting against this depression that was just looming over me. Now, sometime after all that, I don't know how long it took, but myself and a girl, Kelsey, we were making a trip to a camp. We were going to a winter teen retreat. And at the time, when we did this, the road had gone from pavement and switched to gravel. And Kelsey was driving. I was the passenger. We were driving at 120 kilometers an hour when we hit the gravel. Kelsey didn't know that it switched to gravel. I did, but I didn't tell her. I didn't think I needed to. And we had both missed the sign stating that it switched to gravel. So we hit that gravel going 120 kilometers an hour. And immediately we started fishtailing across the whole road. And it went for a little distance, back and forth, back and forth. And then we went into the ditch on the opposite side of the road. The car had gone from facing east to north. And we were actually airborne off the road for a little bit. And then we hit the ditch. And when we hit the ditch, my ribs had smacked into the side of the car, of the door panel. And then we started to roll when we made impact there. And I bonked my head on the roof. And as soon as we started going into the ditch from the fishtailing, everything at this point now for me was going in slow motion. Adrenaline or whatever it is kicks in, and everything was going slow. My observation and my memory of what was going on is so clear and vivid. It's amazing how that works. But anyways, we were rolling and I hit my head, getting tossed around in the car, and then the car lands on all four wheels again, completes the first roll. And now at this point, the windshield had fallen in completely onto the dash. There was no windshield there anymore. And our seatbelts had come off. And both of them, mine and Kelsey's, they had both come right off. And then we started rolling again. The momentum just kept taking us. And now on this second roll, I started to lift up out of my chair. And started going forwards towards the windshield. Flying out of it is what was going through my mind, that I'm going to get tossed from this vehicle. And something happened then, and it shocked me. Something so abrupt that it shocked me. My attention was grabbed, but it was gentle. It was gentle. And I tried to see what was going on, this thing that happened. And what it was is I felt a presence behind me. And I felt a hand on my left shoulder. And it grabbed me firmly. How do you say? Firmly but gently. It stopped me from ascending further through the car to fly. And that hand lowered me back down into my seat. And I'm trying to turn my head to see who it is that's behind me, that's lowering me down into my seat. But, I couldn't see anything because I can't turn my head all the way. The momentum of the spinning is stopping me. And all I can see out of the corner of my eye is that Kelsey was also out of her seat. And by the end of the roll, we were both sitting in our seat. I didn't bonk my head the second time through the roll. I didn't hit anything. I was simply out of my seat and lowered back into it. Now this hand, this presence that was behind us, that was an angel. That was a God-sent angel in the back of our seat that lowered us both back in. It saved our lives. That day on that road, it's just down the road from my house here now, actually. I could have died. I wouldn't be here. But God had other plans. He wasn't done with me yet. He sent an angel He wasn't done with Kelsey yet. He sent an angel, and he saved our lives. So when we were done the roll, it was pitch black out. We couldn't see a thing. We had lost our phones in the rolling, and I had to crawl back into the car after getting out to try to find my phone, and there's glass everywhere. I got a couple extra little scrapes on my hand from crawling in the glass in the car to find my phone. But you know what? The only injuries that I had from that roll was bruised ribs and just a couple scrapes. Nothing on my head, no concussion. Kelsey had no injuries other than a couple scrapes, maybe a couple bruises. But we came out of that roll unscathed. We came back the next day in daylight in the morning to look at the car to see what had happened. The roof of the car had crumpled in. Not the entire roof, but the front of it where we were sitting had crumpled in. The car was rolling on the front end of the car there, crushing the roof in, the hood in. And like I said, there was glass absolutely everywhere in this car. There was barbed wire that was wrapped around the entire car. And it had a fence post from the fence there wedged and lodged into the car. Some strapped to the hood, another one specifically lodged underneath the driver's side wheel well. That if it had kept going, it was wedged into the metal. It started to break that metal apart. And if it had kept on going, it would have impaled Kelsey's legs. But it stopped. It did not break the cabin of the car. By all rights, we should have at least had severe injuries or been dead. And we came out of that accident with God's providence, keeping us alive and well. It was on this day now that my faith in God had been solidified. No longer did I doubt. No longer did I question. I knew that God was real. And here's my proof. He loves us and he cherishes us because he sent an angel to stop that from happening. Now finally I had proof that God was real, but my lifestyle didn't change much, at least not at first. Now I was still living for myself. I was still caught up in the me. What can I do for me? And I still didn't really have a relationship with God. I knew he existed, but my relationship with him was not there. But now I was equipped with the new discovery. Yeah, he exists. And so I slowly started to work on that relationship with him. And I started to just whatever I could to actually kind of learn more about him, really. You know, I had all that head knowledge from when I was young, and I kind of just threw it away when I started to doubt and believe that maybe God wasn't real. And I forgot some things. And all that stuff that I had learned when I was younger anyways, I couldn't make the connections on how that made any difference in me having a relationship with God. But it started to work. I started to build a relationship with him. Slowly but surely, I started to learn who God was. And armed with his help, I was able to fight off depression. You know, by myself and the hope that maybe others love me, I was able to fight off the depression long enough that I could function a little normally, a little bit more normally. That I wasn't constantly having my head filled with terrible thoughts and voices. But now, not just myself, but with God, I was able to beat depression. Completely gone. It wasn't just fighting it off so that I don't have these thoughts now. I am not depressed anymore. God is greater than depression. He has an everlasting hope for us, that will bring you out of the despair there. But now I was stuck again. Now I had beaten depression, and I didn't know where to go or what to do, so I just stopped progressing with my faith. My goal in my mind at the time was to have a relationship enough that I can get over depression. And so then once I was free of the depression, I wasn't even really sure how you function as a normal human being again. So I had to kind of learn how to do that again. And because I was learning about that, on how to be me, and I hadn't incorporated my relationship with Jesus, with God, to be a part of that still, I separated it, and I was simply discovering myself. And so, of course, naturally, I started serving me. I started to do the things again that were pleasurable for myself, and just working on what I thought I needed at the time. And so my focus again was not God. It was what I could do for myself. And I grew addictions. I grew addicted to the things that I was allowing myself to indulge in. I was addicted to the gym. I went to the gym a lot, and that was partly because I was addicted to my self-image. I cared so much what other people thought of me now. Getting out of depression, I wanted to make sure that I knew people had affection for me. And in one way of doing that, I could get girls' affection by looking a certain way, by having a certain kind of a body type that would then attract affection. And so I went to the gym, and I was obsessed with my self-image and my reputation that I had with those around me, with anybody really that I would come into contact with. I started to go to parties, and I started drinking, and I really got into it. I was going all the time, often, going to parties, sometimes it would be night after night after night, there'd be a party, and I'd go out and I'd be drinking every single time. I reveled in that attention that I was getting from the lifestyle that I was living. I thought, this is happiness. This is joy. I am enjoying this. It kept on going. I became addicted to other things. I became addicted to porn. Porn has been one of the heaviest giants that I have faced. But with God, anything is possible. But this addiction took root within me, deeply. And it, with everything else, started to become detrimental to my life, to my relationship with God. There was no relationship with God when I was doing this. I was living for myself. Now, I would made what I at the time I called improvements. I slowly started to realize I'm coming to these parties and I'm drinking to have fun. As if I wasn't drinking, would I really be having fun? And something within me just said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to drink in order to have fun. And so I would stop drinking. Eventually, I realized, being sober, what was going on at these parties, and I stopped going to the parties. And so slowly I would make some adjustments and some stuff like that I thought was kind of bettering my life. And that was coming from the knowledge that God exists and that I want this relationship with Him. And so that part of me was saying, don't do this. This is wrong. Don't do this. And I eventually listened to that side only after I had indulged into it to the point where I was already addicted to it. And it wasn't easy to let go of it. I was still tempted to go out, have parties, have drinks. And for quite some time that went on. But I was always, in the midst of all of that, I was searching for something. I was looking for the satisfaction that I just couldn't seem to meet no matter what I did. So I kept going to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Thank God that I didn't get into drugs. I didn't get into smoking. But I kept trying to fill myself with the satisfaction of something from this world that I knew I was searching for something. And in the midst of searching for something, I'd have these battles with myself saying, here I'm presented with something. I want to do this thing. And here's the other side of me. I know I shouldn't do this. You know why? Because it's wrong. God doesn't want me to do this, and I know I'm not supposed to do it. But here, I have a battle with myself, and I argue with myself and against God. Here's a reason why I should go and do that. Here's a reason why I deserve to do this thing that's not right. It's not good. And I would have these battles with myself almost daily, if not more than once a day, over everything. And I could always argue why it was more important that I do this for myself. And then I would do it, And then I feel the regret, I feel the guilt, and so on and so forth. Living in sin. Then, skipping ahead, I met Brianna, who's now my wife. And all of my time and my effort was now devoted to her. I started, I invested everything into her. And all of these other addictions and these things that I was indulging in started to fade away. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped caring so much about my self-image because my image was for her, not for other people now. And throughout our relationship, I started to notice that at times I would get closer with God. And I would start reading my Bible more. I would start praying more again. And I would actually feel like I was growing in my faith and I was getting to know God more. But then I would fall away. No real particular reason. I would just start falling away from God again. And I'd start pursuing me again and what I wanted for myself. But then I'd have another spurt where it's like, yeah, I need to get in my relationship with God more and I need to start growing more. And it would just kind of keep going back and forth like that for a little while. And when I was having the parts where I felt I was growing in my faith, I would try to share that with Brianna. She was not a Christian at the time. She is now. And, she was not a believer. She wasn't sure of what she believed. And so I would try to share my faith with her about what I believed about God when I was feeling like I was growing with God, because that was kind of something I wanted to pursue, and I wanted to share that with her. And it went on like that until Brianna and I got married. And we did get married in the presence of God. We had our wedding with God intertwined with it. We have unity sands. 3 different sands. One for God, one for me, one for Brianna. We had God intertwined in our wedding. But on that day that we got married, I didn't feel close with God. I didn't feel that I had a good, strong relationship with Him at the time. And I didn't for many, many days after our wedding, for quite a while. It became the kind of relationship, really, where I would only come to God when I needed Him, when I thought that I wanted Him because I was going through a struggle that I couldn't face on my own, that it was a hardship, and I would come to Him in my time of need, but I wouldn't come to Him all the time. And He became my last resort. I would do everything else first that I could do personally. And then I would come to God. Because He was my last resort. I'm like, okay, God, I can't get anything else done. Help me out here. Help me out with this. Now, during the first couple years of our marriage, Brianne and I went through some massive, absolutely major trials and that just about broke our marriage. A couple years in, we just about lost it. We were so scarily close to having it torn all apart. But I praise God. I give Him the glory because through Him, there was no other way. It was through Him. He saved our marriage. He absolutely saved and healed our marriage. We are stronger now than we have ever been because of Him. I'm not going to go into the details of what it was that just about broke our marriage, but just know that it was insurmountable. There was nothing that I could do. And again, with this, I had tried everything that I could because I was trying to do what I can. But I came to God quickly, and I absolutely surrendered everything to Him. And same with Brianna. We came to God through this insurmountable trial that we were facing. And it was through Him and Him alone that saved our marriage. There was nothing that either one of us could have done individually without His help. So all praise and glory belong to Him. Now, because of His divine intervention into our struggles, it was at this point that I started to realize my dependence on God was more than just, when it was convenient for me, that I shouldn't just be calling on God because, I think I need you right now because I can't do anything else by myself. And then I started to realize that I just need God. I just need Him all the time. And so I started to feel a calling towards the things that I believed God was leading me towards. This is about the first time I really started to feel that God was leading me towards something and that I felt the sensitivity to His guidance. And then when I would follow through and I would obey and I'd do those things that He was leading me to do, not because I felt that I needed to, due to our hardship, that because I'm facing this struggle, I'm going to do this. But no, because I did it because I wanted to serve God, that I wanted to obey His commands. It felt great. I can't exactly describe. It's fulfilling. We are meant to obey God. And so now, following through where God's leading me, skipping ahead a little ways into the future here, I'm at a Christian bookstore, and I've gone through and I've gathered about 4 books, and I'm holding these books in my hand, and I'm just standing there and I'm looking at them, and kind of asking Brianna, my wife, if which one of these should I get? I don't know that I want to buy all of these because I don't know that I want to spend all this money on these books. But I feel like there's some good material in these books that I should be reading to help further along my spiritual journey, my relationship with Jesus. And so I'm sitting there contemplating, which book do I get? And then it happens. I hear a voice, a clear and commanding voice. And it says to me, "Be my disciple and follow me." Whoa. Oh, man. At this moment, I hear those words. I'm overwhelmed, and tears start swelling in my eyes. I'm filled with joy, complete joy. This was Jesus calling out to me. And there was, at the time, nothing else on my mind. In that moment, there was absolutely nothing else going on in the world except me needing to respond to Jesus' invitation. All the worries, all the fears of this world, everything that bogs you down was gone. It vanished. It wasn't there. The only thing that I felt in that specific moment, all those fears, everything that was replaced with complete peace, perfect peace, and contentment and joy. I replied, "Yes, Lord, I will follow you." I went and I bought each and every one of those books, thinking, I need these to follow you. Now, that was about a year ago from now, roughly, that I had bought those books, and I still haven't read all of them. Go figure. But the important thing here is not what is in those books, because there is no content in those books that could have been as important or as impactful as the words spoken to me. Be my disciple and follow me. No other word that could be written in those books could mean as much as Jesus' invitation. At this point now that I had spurred inside of me, I had this inspiration now, this desire to truly start serving Jesus completely. Because, up until this point, I hadn't really been doing that. It was the off and on still. Now here, I felt compelled to truly give my life over to Jesus. I start following him. And at the time when I had that, I didn't really realize that there was a distinction between God and Jesus. God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. But in the moments he was speaking those words to me, I just knew. It was knowledge just given to me when he spoke those words that this is Jesus. I knew it was him. That feeling that I had in the midst of the message that God was giving to me, the feeling of unconditional love and complete peace, perfect peace, that overwhelmed and made everything go away, was so powerful. I long for that each and every day. Every day I want that again. I want to experience that. And I believe that this is just a glimpse of that peace that we're going to have when we are reunited with Jesus. Just a glimpse. And it is this desire for the peace, it is this desire for Jesus that has led me to continue growing further and discovering who Jesus really is and what he has done for us. Like I say, at the time I didn't really realize the distinction. I didn't truly know Jesus and all that he had done for me, the sacrifice that he's made for us. Now, it was at this moment that I realized exactly what it was that I had been searching for my entire life. I couldn't put it into words what it was that I was searching for, but I knew that this was it. It was this experience, this peace, this love. It was Jesus. That's all I could really muster up at the time. Now, later on, I read a book, All Things New, by John Eldridge. Now, I really encourage anybody else watching this video to read this book, All Things New, because it talks about hope. It talks about Jesus and what is in store for those who have that relationship with him. All the wonderful things that Jesus promises to us. It is amazing. It shed light on everything that I had kind of been feeling up until that time. All these questions, all these, curiosities I had. I was like, well, what about that? Answers. God used that book and he gave me specific answers. I finally had the words to use to describe what it was that I was searching for, that I was longing for. And it was hope. It was the ultimate hope. This peace that I knew that I needed. It was what my soul was longing for, is longing for. It's what I was made for. I was made to spend eternity with Jesus. And through him, I can have everlasting life thanks to his sacrifice. I can have that peace where the old things of this world will fade away. They will be forgotten. They will not be remembered. It's just so amazing to me. I just can't get over how Jesus has chased me all of my life, never giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself. He saved me from terrible things that I didn't know were even coming after me. Even when I turned my back on him, he never let up. When I lost myself, Jesus found me. Now, to be reunited with my Creator is my hope. That's my ultimate hope. I long to be with Jesus. And until that day comes now, I will serve him with this life that he has given to me. He has done such a wonderful, wonderful thing in my life. And he's not done. He's going to continue to work within me to continue to change me. I long so much for the day that I will be reunited with him, but until then, he has work for me to do here on this earth. I hope that this is, it's a long video, but if you've stuck with me through this far, I hope that it has encouraged you, that it's touched your hearts. The power of our testimonies is so wonderful, so magnificent, because God is magnificent. He is so powerful. Our testimonies are a means in which to glorify God, but it makes us vulnerable, right? It opens us up. And when you go and you share your testimony with somebody else, you're showing your vulnerability to them. Hey, I'm opening up to you. You can trust me. I want to share what God's done in my life so that he might be able to do something for you in your life. Our testimonies are such a powerful way in which we can reach out to others. So I challenge you to think about your testimony, what it is that God has done in your life, and where you think that he might be trying to take you, so that you can go and you can share your testimony with the world. We are not called to hide our lives, but to let our lives shine for the whole world to see. Let us exemplify Christ. Yeah, if you've stuck with me this far, thank you for watching this. And I pray that it has been a blessing to you. I pray that God would be with you, His Holy Spirit be upon you and working within you to touch your heart, to transform your life, to continue to work inside of you, making your faith stronger. Let your relationship grow more and more with God. Let Jesus be the center of your life, and I pray that you would touch the hearts and the souls of those around you. Well, until next time, we'll see you guys later. God bless you.